kind of want to get into the topic of PT versus chiro, and I
Yeah.
think the term of versus, I think, is almost like a combative term, and like, it's one versus the other, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of comparing apples to oranges, where they're both a fruit, but they're both viable options for patients in a way, in a medical community altogether. And so I think where I want to start off is for you, how do you define chiropractor in your own words?
Um, Chiropractic.
Yeah, chiropractic. Yeah, just like the whole practice of what you do.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's the art of helping the body get back to a state of health and functionality that that it's not currently at.
Hmm.
And that can be done, and through chiropractic we do that through the nervous system by adjusting the spine. So the nerves that go out of the spine, those control, they control everything. So if you have a spinal cord injury, anything below that point is just not going to respond, because the nerves are what are communicating info into the brain and all that. So from chiropractic, our job is to make sure that not only, are the spine and the joints optimal and able to move and glide to allow that person to do what they need to do on a daily basis, but to optimize healing and health through 100% functionality of the nervous system.
And ultimately, your goal early on is to have this conversation, obviously, but also, I see a lot of chiros also veer off into different avenues with like health for like diet and nutrition. Do you do a lot of that as well?
So I am interested in diet and nutrition. However, we at the clinic that I'm at, my dad is actually huge into functional medicine.
Hmm.
So right, he spent a lot of time adjusting. He still adjusts, but he spends most of his time doing that because that's what gets him jazzed up. He takes on like challenging patients, and he gets great results with people that have, that are kind of, they're like, I've seen 3 or 4 people, I don't know where else to go. And they kind of come here, and he takes on that challenge from a nutritional aspect. So personally, I don't deal with it a lot right now, but it is something that we do in the clinic, and something as a chiropractor that you can do.
Yeah. And also, one of the biggest things that I see between PTs and chiros is you guys get a pretty extensive imaging in school. You guys look at
Mhm.
x-rays and how to diagnose that, which is awesome. And I would hope that the PT um, field is going in that direction as well, because I feel like it's definitely a useful tool at times. Why don't you talk about a little bit, do you x-ray pretty much everybody that comes in the clinic as just like as a tool, or are you looking for certain things to try and rule them out? I mean, obviously we know about red flags and so forth, but maybe everybody who goes into a chiro doesn't understand that you guys have very extensive knowledge and about x-rays and looking at imaging and so forth.
Yeah. I mean, x-rays are great, and x-rays were a huge component of almost a generation or two ago chiropractic. Like they would x-ray every single person that came in, and that, but now we know that x-rays are good for certain types of, as you said, red flags or issues that show up, injuries. But x-rays can change so easily with just the angle of the x-ray, the side, if the person turns at all. And, for me, I don't like to adjust or treat only off of the x-ray. I like
Hmm.
to use other criteria, because an x-ray is like a static picture of a person that moves, sits, stands, jumps, athlete, whatever it is that they do. I think it's good for, injuries. Is it broken? What's up with the curve of the spine? That's extremely important. A person who's not healing as quickly as they normally do. We kind of go, okay, well, let's just probe a little bit more in this area, because you should be healing. And they're like, oh, you got something a little bit interesting in here. That's an interesting image. So
Hmm.
for me, I like to x-ray when appropriate, not every single patient across the board. And that's just kind of what I've done and what I like. I don't think it's a I don't think it's a bad thing if a person x-rays every single person. I just don't know if it's as required. But again, we talked about the criteria to correct and improve. patient's care. And a lot of chiropractors might use that x-ray as a criteria, right? Like
Mm.
the curvature of their spine. So if that's what you're doing, then great. And they're like, look, check out this curve in this spine. You got scoliosis, you got a little thing here. What I want to fix is that. And they go, okay, you know, so if that's what they're doing, then that x-ray would be important.
Yeah. And I totally agree. I think people sometimes can hold on, like patients can hold on to their x-ray as like, this is who I am and this is me from now on. And, you know,
Yeah.
you're here to fix me. And they become almost, their ego is almost attached to that x-ray. And sometimes it may not be beneficial for the patient to get an x-ray